Oh, this is Justin Trudeau. We've got just pictures coming through of Justin Trudeau, who's just arrived, touched down. So soon after the US President Joe Biden, you also have the Canadian Justin Trudeau touching down. Canada has for the moment frozen the FTA ties or put that held back on it. So will there be some progress there? There have been issues beyond the realm of trade. Geopolitical issues which India has constantly raised. Will that be addressed? His own pressures back home to stay on in power, and with those who are propping him up having secessionist tendencies towards India, plenty of questions arise. The last time around, Justin Trudeau was ridiculed for his behavior and the way he turned himself out, and also mixing with a lot of people who had secessionist intent. But we do see Union Minister of State Rajiv Chandrasekhar present there to welcome him. And as they welcome the leaders of across the world, it's time for me to say hello and welcome to Rahul Shivshankar here in our studios. Welcome aboard the News 18 network and this family, Rahul.
Lovely to see you, Anand. Lovely to see you, and thank you very much for having me on board. It's been a time of reflection over the last 2 months, and I'm also very thankful to a large number of viewers who have been asking when I'm going to be on air, and I can tell you that it will be very soon on this platform in some shape or form. It's such an exciting day today,
yes,
Anand, and I'm so glad to be back in the studio to talk about India's really bursting onto the scene as a leading global power, and it is actually leading the entire new narrative on reforming global governance. And I think fundamentally the conversation today that's going to follow between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi is a very important one, because remember, it's happening all in the backdrop,
yes,
Anand, of two very interesting conversations that both leaders have had with President Xi of China. And both will want to know what exactly transpired in that conversation, because in all strategic establishments, there's always this apprehension that the Chinese will try and create a wedge where they can see one.
Correct.
And as you know, the Biden administration has been very, very forthcoming in trying to engage India in the hope that India will pivot against China. India, of course, pursues a strategy of strategic autonomy where it doesn't want to be sucked into any one particular camp. And I think the challenge really is to get more and more influential nations, at least that's where the Americans are coming from, onto their side, so that they can build a lot of pressure.
What about Trudeau?
Trudeau, well, you know, he's an enigma actually. He's an enigma because he plays a game that India doesn't quite like, as you were mentioning.
Yeah.
The fact is that he is hamstrung. Jisko kehte hain coalition compulsions.
Yeah.
We are very familiar with it. We saw that during the UPA years.
Yeah.
And we can see those compulsions actually overshadowing his autonomy in his government to pursue a policy that might be actually much more reflective of goodwill towards India, but he can't beyond a point. So I don't think in the larger, to be very, very honest, I don't want to be condescending towards any nation, etc., but in the larger rubric
scheme of things,
and the largest scheme of things of international diplomacy, Trudeau knows his place. I think the three fundamental conversations that are going to actually determine the entire scope of this particular meeting are the ones that are being had right now as we speak between the Sherpas of the various engaging and contending countries on trying to arrive at that common language in that communique that we hope will be issued, because this would be one of the first G20s where, if people hold on to the positions that they've so far held on to, there may not be a communique which will perhaps reflect on just how deeply polarized the world is.
Today. But something interesting, because G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant was in conversation with us at the G20 town hall, and he said that we are working from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. to get every word is contested, but there is a common sense of compromise or consensus building. There is an effort to that. Jake Sullivan, the NSA of the US, also on that onboard press conference, mentioned the same thing, that there is a spirit of compromise despite our own positions and where we are in terms of a conflict-ridden world. Interesting.
Well, the countries that want to work within the global framework, like the Western Bloc, the G7 bloc, they might be more willing to concede ground. But two others, both their presidents haven't shown up.
Correct.
may not be so forthcoming. So that's the fundamental disjoint.
True, the president may not have come from China, but the premier is here. And if you look at Russia, we know why President Putin has skipped this. We know very well. But the most trusted aide is here, the foreign minister is here, and who does not hold back. So will India be able to bridge these nations and get a communique? That's important. But interestingly, the media center is quite the focus of action, not just action, but conversations.